I'm fortunate enough to be a public lands manager. I manage habitat for MassWildlife. And so I'm out on public lands every day, and they mean quite a bit, I'm sure, to all of us. But I find hunting out here, especially in the Northeast, hunting and fishing, we're not really in a real game-rich area. And so you oftentimes get yourself in all these conundrums, and stuff happens, and you don't see any game. And you really have to have a pretty good sense of humor, or else you just get out of it altogether. And so I try to reflect a lot in like my hunting and fishing in humor, and my stories and the stuff I tell tend to reflect that. And waterfowl hunting is one of those hunting activities where you're really going through like super hot days to freezing cold days, and mud and muck and all sorts of stuff can happen in it. And if you don't laugh at yourself at the end of the day, even though you didn't get anything, then you better just go like take up golf or something and get the heck out of it. So this story is called The Bad Day. Now, every serious waterfowl hunter always has that one bad day every season, at least one. The day where nothing goes right no matter what you do. And it's like a cold. You never know when the bad day is going to hit. My bad day came this fateful night, or this fateful day, near Halloween last year. It was 10:30 p.m., and I was out in the town with some friends who were up from New York City. And telling them I had to leave early to go prepare for tomorrow's duck hunt wasn't going to happen. I had already said no to a sketchy goose hunt my buddy was setting up, because the wake-up call would have been 2:30 p.m. But my original plan was to take my boat out onto a nice relaxing marsh and have a nice relaxing duck hunt. But at this late hour, I knew it wasn't going to happen. Why? Well, first off, my boat was still stashed in the rafters in my garage. The paddle was somewhere in the back of the shed. My life jackets, I had no idea where they were. And if I was going to try to get all that stuff together at this late hour, I knew I was setting myself up for disaster, which was probably going to be forgetting one key piece of equipment, which probably would have been my gun. So I immediately made a decision that I was going to gear down and go to this place known as the Channel. Now, the Channel is a shallow river backwater that gets high scores for its duckiness, but pretty low scores for the number of ducks that actually go there. Now, most newbies go and hit the Channel really hard when they're first starting out until they either go somewhere else or completely give up. My poor father was hooked into the seductive nature of the Channel for years. It got so bad that he even developed these grand illusions where ducks filled the sky and he shot limits of birds. Hunts I knew for a fact had never even happened. Yet here I was, falling into the same trap. The alarm clock went off at 3 a.m., but it wasn't necessarily the alarm that woke me up. It was the pain that was a byproduct of the poorly prepared Mexican food and beer I had not less than 6 hours ago. I ate a whole roll of Tums, I chased it with a glass of Alka-Seltzer, and dozed off to sleep. Which felt like minutes. I woke up at 6 a.m., grabbed my gear, jumped in my truck, and headed down to the Channel. Now, I passed the first obstacle on the way down there, which was this sketchy farm road full of ruts and mud. Perfect, I thought. I made it through the tough one. There it was. I got down towards the Channel. I could see it clearly getting down to the river right there, and no one else was there. This was going to be the nice, relaxing duck hunt I had always wanted. I put my waders on, I grabbed my gear, and I proceeded to walk down towards the Channel. Now, in the dark, I waded out into the Channel, and then I realized the water was way higher than I expected. There was no way I was going to be able to hunt this area right now and be able to get the ducks because the water level was too high. Not a problem, not a problem. My memory told me that up the Channel was a beaver dam, and right below it, the water was shallow enough for me to be able to go in and set out my decoys. I grabbed my gear and proceeded to head up towards the beaver dam. Now, what my memory failed to tell me was that the entire bank lining the Channel was lined with the most insidious plant known to man. The invasive plant called multiflora rose. As I struggled to get up towards the beaver dam, I was subject to several bloodletting sessions courtesy of the multiflora rose. But my mind told me the blood seeping down my face would just add more depth to my camo face paint. Plus, this is what real hunting is all about. This is hardcore, not that sissy crap that you see on TV where nobody even gets mud on their boots. I finally made it up to the beaver dam and I set my decoys out. I hunkered back into the brush and I waited. I didn't even want to pour a cup of coffee because I needed to be ready the moment the ducks arrived. All was silent, and I waited. And then I heard it. Distant gunshots. Ooh, I was excited. I knew there was no way they shot all those ducks down there. And sooner or later, the survivors will come right to this ducky spot, waiting where I will unleash steel shot on them. All was silent. Nothing happened. A muskrat swam amongst the decoys. Perfect, I thought. Motion on the water? That'll bring the birds right in. 2 hours passed and not much occurred. I heard some shooting, not a lot, but enough to tell me where the ducks were, and where I was, they weren't. All was silent. I waited another hour. I heard the ring of the church bell off in the distance signaling 10 o'clock. Oh, should I pack it up? Boom! 6 mallards flew over my shoulder. I hit the duck call, hoping they would turn. I saw them cup their wings and they cupped down. They landed down the channel, not into my decoys. I waited. I hoped they would swim up to the decoys. This would be my chance. And I waited. They didn't swim up to the decoys. It was at this point I knew what I was going to have to do. I was going to have to resort to what all good duck hunters do when the ducks don't come in. Put the sneak on and jump shoot them. It was going to be mono eat duck. I grabbed my gun and hunkered down. As I walked along using the multiflora rose as cover, its only redeeming quality, I made the walk down to see if I could find these mallards in the water, to save myself from what I thought was a potentially bad day. As I walked further, all of a sudden I saw it. The emerald green of a draped mallard's head, shimmering like the great Gatsby's beacon of hope, the hope to save me from the clutches of this bad day. Our eyes connected. I knew it was on. And like the scene from a Clint Eastwood spaghetti western, the long stare down commenced. Who was going to make the first move? And then I saw it. There was a twitch in the duck's face. I knew it was on. I lifted my gun as the duck rose up off the water, and then all of a sudden, I felt it, the rip of a multiflora rose on the back of my hand. I pulled my hand away, and I just pulled the rose bush further into me. I pulled even further, and all I did was rip flesh and cloth. I finally shouldered my gun, and it was too late. The ducks were out of range. It was over. And I knew too well the bitter taste of defeat, and I didn't bring any mints. As I ejected the third shell from my shotgun to proceed the retreat, I happened to look up, and I happened to see 2 wood ducks that must have been hidden in the reeds that swim out in front of me. And as I watched them fly off as fate would have it, they happened to be the slowest ducks in the world, shaking salt in my proverbial and very real wounds. Now, I know it's not all about the birds we shoot. It's about the enjoyment of being outside. And oftentimes we don't realize that in the moment. And being a serious waterfowl hunter, you're trudging through the rain, the snow, the sleet, the mud, the heat, all for maybe one duck or maybe none. And hunting is a lot like life. And life is like a hurdle race. Sometimes you jump right over them. Sometimes you crash right through them. But either way, you keep going. And being a serious waterfowl hunter, you know that crashing through a bad day means getting one step closer to that great day. And you know what? Tomorrow could be that day. I better call in sick.